At 2:17 a.m., my hidden camera recorded my wife Evelyn crushing 2 pills into a fine white powder. She stirred it into our son's water glass until it dissolved completely. I watched the video 3 times, my blood turning to ice. My name is Paul. I'm 68 years old, and I had just discovered that the woman I'd slept next to for 40 years was a poisoner. Before I tell you what I did next, let me know where you're listening from in the comments. And please hit like and subscribe if you believe that sometimes the truth is the most dangerous thing of all. The blender screamed a high-pitched whine that felt too violent for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I looked up from the Wall Street Journal, my knuckles tight on the newspaper. My wife Evelyn was smiling a bright, brittle smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was pouring a thick, dark green sludge into a tall glass. "A new recipe for Ryan," she announced to the empty kitchen. "Spirulina kale and a touch of ginger. It'll have him back on his feet in no time." I nodded, trying to force the knot of anxiety in my stomach to unclench. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But right at that moment, our son Ryan stumbled into the room. He's 39 years old, a man who built and sold his own company. But the person standing in the kitchen doorway looked like a ghost. He was wearing the same plush bathrobe he'd been wearing yesterday. His hair was matted. His eyes, usually so sharp and intelligent, were dull and clouded. He swayed, gripping the doorframe for support. "Mom," he slurred, his voice thick. "My head, it feels foggy. So foggy." "Drink this, honey," Evelyn cooed, bustling over to him. She guided the glass into his hand. "This will fix you right up." As Ryan's trembling hand took the glass, I saw it. Just for a second. On the rim of the glass, stark against the dark green liquid, was a fine, powdery white residue. Before I could even form the words, "What is that?" Evelyn's hand darted out with a kitchen towel. She wiped the rim clean in a single practiced motion. "Just some protein powder, Paul," she said, her voice sharp. She didn't look at me. Her eyes were locked on Ryan. "It didn't dissolve properly. Drink it all, Ryan. Every last drop." Ryan, too exhausted to argue, just obeyed. He tipped his head back and drank the entire thing in 3 long, difficult swallows. He shuddered. "I think," he mumbled, handing the empty glass back, "I think I need to sleep again." He turned shuffling like a man twice his age and disappeared back up the stairs. We heard his bedroom door click shut. Evelyn watched him go, and I saw that look on her face again. A strange, quiet satisfaction that made my skin crawl. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. "Are you sure he's okay, Evie?" I finally asked, my voice lower than I intended. "He's been recovering here for 3 months. All he does is sleep. This doesn't look like burnout. This looks wrong." Evelyn turned to me, her smile tightening. "Paul, he just went through a grueling acquisition. He's mentally exhausted. Men don't understand that kind of sensitive burnout. He just needs his mother. Now let me take his supplements up." She picked up a small tray with his daily vitamins and walked out, her back ramrod straight. But I couldn't shake the image of that white powder, or the speed with which she had erased it. A cold, hard dread was beginning to settle in my chest. That night, the dread turned into a full-blown alarm. I woke up suddenly. The clock on the nightstand glowed 2:15 a.m. My throat was dry. I reached over to my wife's side of the bed. It was empty. The sheets were cold. I sat bolt upright, my heart hammering. The house was dead quiet. Too quiet. I slid out of bed, my bare feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. I didn't turn on the light. I crept to our bedroom door and listened. And then I heard it. A whisper, so faint I almost missed it. It was coming from down the hall, from Ryan's room. My first thought was an intruder. I moved silently, my skills as an old engineer making me careful of the creaking floorboards. I edged down the hallway until I reached Ryan's door. It was cracked open just an inch. I held my breath and peered inside. It wasn't an intruder. It was Evelyn. She was standing at the foot of Ryan's bed. He was fast asleep, breathing deeply. But she wasn't tucking him in. She wasn't checking on him. She was just standing there, perfectly still. In the pale moonlight filtering through the window, she looked like a statue. She was just staring at him. I watched frozen for 1 minute, 2 minutes. My legs started to cramp. At 5 minutes, she still hadn't moved a muscle. There was an intensity to her posture, a possessive, unsettling focus that terrified me. It wasn't the look of a loving mother, it was the look of an assessor, a scientist observing a specimen. I retreated just as silently as I had come. I got back into bed, my mind racing, my blood feeling like ice water in my veins. What was going on? I lay there staring at the ceiling, piecing things together. Ryan wasn't just burned out. He wasn't broke. He was the opposite of broke. 3 months ago, he had finalized the sale of his software startup. The number, when he'd told me, had seemed unreal. $8 million. He had come home to his childhood bedroom to decompress and decide what's next. I had been proud, but Evelyn had been galvanized. He's overwhelmed, Paul, she had insisted in a dozen different conversations. He's just a boy, he doesn't know how to handle that kind of money. He's 39, Evie, I had argued. He's my boy, she'd snapped. He needs his mother to handle the boring financial details. Just until he's back on his feet, he trusts me. And Ryan, in his exhausted state, had agreed. He'd signed something. I hadn't paid much attention at the time. I just thought she was being an overbearing if loving mother. Now lying in the dark, remembering her stare, that help felt like control. That love felt like possession. The next night I pretended to be asleep. I regulated my breathing, lay perfectly still, but my senses were on high alert. It happened again. 2:15 a.m. on the dot. I felt the mattress shift as Evelyn slipped out of bed. She moved like a shadow. I listened, straining my ears. As she passed our bedroom door, I heard it. A small, sharp clack. The sound of glass against glass. The unmistakable sound of a small pill bottle being quietly drawn from the pocket of her silk robe. My suspicion was no longer a vague fear. It was a certainty. I had to find out what was in that bottle. The explosion came that Saturday. I was in the garage trying to fix a lawnmower I had no interest in, mostly just to get out of the house. The doorbell rang. I ignored it, assuming Evelyn would get it. Then came the shouting. Not just raised voices, a full-blown, desperate argument. I dropped my wrench and ran inside. Maya, Ryan's fiancée, was standing in our living room. She looked frantic, her keys still in her hand. Evelyn was standing opposite her, her face a mask of cold fury. "What are you doing to him, Evelyn?" Maya was yelling, and I could hear the tears in her voice. She had clearly let herself in when no one answered the bell. "He's not himself. He doesn't even know who I am. He forgot my name yesterday. He missed our venue appointment. Evelyn. He thought it was still August. What are you giving him?" Evelyn took a deep theatrical breath. She composed herself, turning into the perfect wounded matriarch. "How dare you?" she said, her voice dripping with ice. "You barge into my home unannounced, and you accuse me I am caring for my son. He is sick. He is suffering from severe depression." "This isn't depression. This is what happens when a gold digger gets scared," Evelyn shouted, cutting her off. "You're just terrified he's not coherent enough to add your name to his new bank account. You don't care about him. You only care about his $8 million. "That is not true," Maya shrieked, her face crumbling. "I loved him before any of that, Paul." She whirled and saw me standing in the doorway. Her eyes were wide, pleading. "Paul, please, you have to see it. You live here. He's like a zombie. She's keeping him like this. You have to do something." I opened my mouth. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I never got the chance. Evelyn moved. She crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed Maya by the upper arm, and physically shoved her toward the front door. "Get out!" Evelyn snarled, her voice a low growl I had never heard before. "Get out of my house and stay away from my son. You are not welcome here. You are upsetting him." She shoved Maya, who was half sobbing, half gasping in shock, out onto the porch. "Evelyn, no." I started moving forward. "Slam!" Evelyn slammed the front door. The deadbolt turning sounded like a gunshot in the sudden silence. She stood there for a moment, breathing heavily. Then she slowly turned around. She smoothed her hair, adjusted her sweater, and the mask of the calm, caring wife slid right back into place. "You see, Paul," she said, her voice perfectly level. "I told you. That girl is unstable. She's just trying to divide us. She wants to take my son away from me." I didn't say a word. I looked at the locked door that Maya was probably still standing behind. I looked at my wife, who was now calmly walking to the kitchen as if she were going to make a cup of tea. I knew in that instant. Maya was right. Ryan wasn't sick. He was a prisoner. And my wife wasn't his caregiver. She was his jailer. And I was the only one on the inside. I had to get proof. I had to know what was in that bottle. The next morning I was a man on a mission. Evelyn announced she was going to her standing hair appointment, a 3-hour affair across town. The moment her Mercedes backed out of the driveway, I went to my study. I was a mechanical engineer for 42 years. I spent my life solving problems, looking for flaws in systems. My wife's behavior was a system that was critically flawed, and I was going to find the bug. In the back of my desk drawer, beneath old blueprints and expired passports, was a small box. I had bought it months ago, thinking I'd set it up in the garage after a few tools went missing. It was a nanny cam, state-of-the-art, but designed to be simple. It looked exactly like a black USB wall charger. My hands were surprisingly steady. I took the camera and went to Ryan's room. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, the curtains drawn against the afternoon sun. Ryan was where he always was, buried under his comforter, breathing in the slow, unnaturally deep rhythm of a man who was perpetually sedated. He didn't even stir. I scanned the room. My engineer's mind calculated angles and lines of sight. The target was the nightstand. That's where she would bring the water. That's where she would perform her ritual. There, on the opposite wall, was the perfect spot. An electrical outlet partially hidden by a bookshelf, but with a clean, unobstructed view of the bed and, crucially, the nightstand. I walked over, pulled out the lamp plug that was already there, and plugged the camera into the top socket. I plugged the lamp into the bottom of the camera block. It looked perfectly normal. A tiny blue light blinked once, then went dark. It was active. It was recording. And it was broadcasting. I backed out of the room, pulling the door to the exact same cracked open position I had found it in. My heart was now hammering against my ribs, a drumbeat of adrenaline and fear. I retreated to my own study at the opposite end of the house. I locked the door. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and typed in the secure IP address from the camera's instruction manual. The screen flickered, asking for a password. I entered it, and just like that, I was in. A live, high-definition video feed of my son's bedroom filled my screen. I could see him, a lump under the covers. I could see the nightstand empty, waiting. All I had to do now was wait. I stared at the screen, knowing that in a few hours, at 2:15 a.m., I would finally see the truth. The wait felt like the longest night of my life. I sat there in the dark of my study, the only light coming from the laptop screen. The live feed was stable. The view was perfect. Ryan's room was cast in the ghostly green-black of the camera's night vision. He was just a shape under the blankets. The digital clock in the corner of the feed ticked over. 10 p.m. 11 p.m. Midnight. My own house felt alien to me. Every creak of the old foundation, every sigh of the furnace sounded like a threat. I was spying on my wife of 40 years. A wave of shame washed over me. What if I was wrong? What if she was just an overprotective mother and I was a paranoid old fool? What if she found the camera I would have destroyed the last 40 years of our life over a feeling, over a V-neck t-shirt? I almost got up. I almost went to retrieve the camera, to delete the footage and apologize for my paranoid mind. But then I remembered Maya's face, the genuine terror and desperation in her eyes. I remembered the cold, possessive way Evelyn had stared at our sleeping son. I remembered the clack of the glass bottle. I stayed seated. 1 a.m. My eyes burned from staring at the screen. Nothing. 1:30 a.m. Nothing. 2 a.m. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure Evelyn would hear it from the other end of the house. 2:10 a.m. Still nothing. Maybe she wasn't coming tonight. Maybe I had been wrong. A part of me felt a wave of profound relief. Maybe this whole thing was a terrible misunderstanding. Maybe Ryan was just sick. The clock on the feed hit 2:17 a.m. The door in the video on the far left of the screen began to move. It didn't swing open. It crept open an inch at a time with an agonizing, silent slowness. A shadow detached itself from the darkness of the hallway. It was Evelyn. She slipped into the room, pausing for a full 10 seconds by the door, listening. I could see her profile clear as day in the infrared. She was listening for me. She was making sure I was asleep. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't dare move. I just watched the screen. She moved. But this time it was different. She didn't go to the foot of the bed to stand and stare. The hesitation was gone. The weird, trance-like state was gone. This was something else. This was methodical. She moved with a chilling, economical purpose, like a nurse on a ward. She glided straight to the nightstand next to Ryan's head, He was completely unconscious, his breathing slow and heavy. She placed a small glass of water on the nightstand, one she must have brought with her. Then she reached into the deep pocket of her silk robe. I leaned in my face, inches from the laptop. She pulled out a small amber-colored pharmacy bottle, the kind the pharmacist gives you for prescriptions. It had no label. My blood ran cold. She fumbled for a moment, and I realized she was pulling something else from her pocket. It was a spoon. A small metal demitasse spoon. She had brought her own tools. She placed the spoon on the nightstand. She carefully unscrewed the child-proof cap on the bottle. She shook 2 small white pills into her palm. Not 1. 2. She placed the 2 pills onto the flat surface of the nightstand. Then, using the back of the spoon, she began to crush them. I watched, mesmerized in absolute horror. She was quick-practiced. She pressed and ground the pills against the wood, her movements short and efficient until they were nothing but a small pile of fine white powder. The same powder I had seen on the rim of the smoothie glass. She scraped the powder onto the spoon, her movements precise. She tapped the spoon to make sure she had all of it. Then she took the glass of water. She dipped the spoon in and stirred. She stirred for 30 seconds. Watching the video, I could see the tiny white specks swirling in the water, illuminated by the night vision. She stirred until every last particle was dissolved, until the water was perfectly clear again. She placed the now empty spoon back into her pocket. She put the cap back on the pill bottle, screwed it tight, and slid it back into the same pocket. She picked up the glass of water. She nudged Ryan's shoulder. "Ryan," she whispered. The camera's microphone was sensitive. I heard it clearly. "Ryan, honey, time for your water." He groaned a deep, incoherent sound. "Sit up, baby. Just for a second. You're thirsty." She slid her arm behind his back and lifted him, propping him up. He was dead weight, his head lolling. He was barely conscious. "Drink," she commanded, her voice no longer soft. It was firm, cold. She put the glass to his lips, and she tilted it. I watched my son in his drugged stupor swallow the water. He choked a little, and she patiently waited, then tilted it again, and again, until the glass was empty. She gently laid him back down. He was asleep again before his head even hit the pillow. She stood there for one more moment. She looked down at his face. There was no love there, no concern, just appraisal. She was checking her work. Then, as silently as she had entered, she turned and slipped out of the room, pulling the door almost shut behind her. I sat in my chair for a long time. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My entire world had just been detonated. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a mother's misguided attempt to help. This was a crime. This was calculated. The separate spoon, the unlabeled bottle, the methodical crushing, the forced ingestion. This was poisoning. The woman I had married, the woman I had built a life with, the woman who kissed me goodnight just hours ago, was systematically poisoning our son while he slept. I put my head in my hands, but no tears came. Just a cold, terrifying emptiness. Then it was replaced by a different feeling, a hot white rage, the $8 million, the power of attorney. It all snapped into focus, a horrifying, perfect picture. She wasn't caring for him. She was incapacitating him. She was keeping him in this foggy, suggestible, helpless state so she could maintain control of his $8 million fortune. My shock vanished. It was replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I was an engineer. I had a problem to solve. I saved the video file. I backed it up to a secure cloud server. I backed it up again to a thumb drive, which I hid inside an old, hollowed-out textbook on my shelf. I had the video. But in a court of law, a video could be disputed. It could be called a fake. I needed physical proof. I looked at the clock. It was 2:52 a.m. She would be fast asleep by now, satisfied with her night's work. I knew what I had to do. I had to get into that room. I had to get that glass. And I had to find that bottle. I had to get the proof, and I had to do it before she woke up and destroyed it. The next morning was the hardest performance of my life. I sat at the kitchen table, the newspaper held up in front of me like a shield. My eyes scanned the same headline over and over, but I wasn't reading. I was listening. I hadn't slept. I was running on a toxic mix of adrenaline and pure, undiluted rage. Evelyn came downstairs at 8:15, humming. She was dressed in her beige cardigan, looking every bit the caring wife, the concerned mother. She poured herself a cup of coffee and kissed me on the cheek. "Good morning, darling," she chirped. I nearly flinched. The touch of her lips on my skin felt like a spider. I just grunted in response. "You look dreadful, Paul," she said, her voice dripping with that familiar practiced concern. "You didn't sleep well? Was it your back again?" I kept my eyes on the paper. "Just thinking." "Oh, sweetie," she said, patting my shoulder. "Don't you worry about Ryan. I have everything under control. He's my project now. He just needs rest." My project. The words sent a chill right through me. I listened to her sip her coffee, talk about the weather, discuss the garden club. I listened to the monster in my house complain about the price of orchids. Every nerve in my body was screaming. I had to force myself to drink my own coffee to nod at the right moments. The toast I ate tasted like ash. Every minute stretched into an eternity. I was waiting, just waiting for my chance. Finally, at 8:52 a.m., she stood up and stretched. "Well," she announced, "I simply must get in the shower. My luncheon is at noon and I need to look my best." It was the signal, the starting gun. "Sounds nice, Evie," I said, my voice impressively steady. I listened. I heard her footsteps go down the hall. I heard the click of the master bathroom door, and then the most beautiful sound in the world, the muffled roar of the water turning on. The pipes in our old house groaned and rattled. She always took a 15-minute shower. Always. The clock was ticking. I put down my coffee cup. I didn't run. I moved with purpose. First Ryan's room. I pushed the door open. The air in the room was thick, stale. Ryan was a lump under the comforter, exactly where she had left him. On the nightstand, clear as day, was the empty water glass. I had come prepared. I pulled a clean Ziploc bag from the pocket of my jeans. My hands were shaking, but I carefully picked up the glass by the base. I didn't want to smudge any prints, not hers, not mine. I slipped it into the bag, sealed it, and folded it flat. Evidence A was secure. Now for the hard part. I crept down the hall to our bedroom. Our bedroom. Her territory. The sound of the shower was louder here, a steady pulsing roar. It was my cover. I slipped inside. My eyes immediately went to the armchair in the corner. There it was, the dark blue silk robe she had worn in the video. It was draped over the arm exactly as she'd left it. My heart was a fist pounding against my ribs. I crossed the room. I could hear her humming in the shower, a tuneless, happy sound. It made me sick. I reached for the robe. The pocket was on the right side. I slid my hand in. My fingers brushed against silk lining, a crumpled tissue, a lipstick. And then, glass. My fingers closed around it. A small, cold, cylindrical object. I pulled it out. The amber bottle. No label. Just as I had seen. I could see 2 or 3 white pills still rattling inside. I had the weapon. I was so focused, so consumed by the victory, that I didn't hear the change. The sound of the water stopped. My entire body went rigid. The silence that fell on the room was absolute terrifying. I was standing in the middle of our bedroom, 10 feet from the bathroom, holding a stolen pill bottle in my hand. "Paul," her voice muffled by the door. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. "Paul, are you in there?" She called again, louder this time. I heard the squeak of the shower door sliding open. She was coming out. My mind went white with panic. I was trapped. I looked down at the bottle in my hand. I had to hide it. I jammed it deep into the front pocket of my jeans. It made a sharp, obvious bulge. "Paul." The doorknob to the bathroom began to turn. I looked around frantically. An excuse. I needed an excuse. My eyes landed on my dresser, my sock drawer. I lunged. I ripped the drawer open and grabbed a handful of balled-up socks just as the bathroom door swung open. Evelyn stood there, wrapped in a thick white towel, her hair piled in another towel on her head. Steam billowed out around her. She stopped dead. Her eyes narrowed, sweeping the room. "Paul, what on earth are you doing? You scared the life out of me." I held up the socks. My voice came out as a squeak. I cleared my throat. "Socks," I said. Just getting socks." She stared at me. It felt like an interrogation. Her eyes flickered down to my jeans, to the angular, unmistakable bulge in my pocket. I tried to turn my hip away from her, a clumsy, unnatural movement. "Socks," she repeated, her voice flat. "You're wearing socks, Paul." I looked down. She was right. I was already wearing socks. "Right," I stammered, my mind racing. These are my walking socks, thicker, for my walk." "A walk," she said, suspicion sharp in her voice. "You haven't been on a walk in 6 months." "Trying to clear my head," I said, forcing a gruff tone. Worried about Ryan, all this, it's a lot. I watched her face. That was the magic word. Ryan. The suspicion in her eyes faded, replaced by that familiar dismissive pat on the head. "Oh, Paul," she sighed, exasperated. "I told you, I am handling Ryan. You wandering around worrying isn't helping anyone. Honestly." She turned back to the mirror, pulling the towel off her hair. "Well, go on your walk. You're letting all the steam out." I didn't wait to be told twice. I mumbled, "Right," and walked out of the room. I did not run. I walked every step measured. I could feel her eyes on my back. I felt the bottle pressing against my leg, a cold, hard reminder of what I had just done. I didn't stop until I was back in my study, the door locked. The bolt slid home. I leaned against the wood, my knees weak, gasping for air as if I'd just run a marathon. I pulled the evidence out of my pockets and laid it on my desk, the Ziploc bag containing the glass, the amber bottle. I had it. I had it all. I looked at the bottle. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely read the pharmacy imprint on the cap. I had the proof. But the proof was useless if I didn't know what it was. I needed a name for this poison. I needed to know what exactly she was pumping into our son. And I had to get it tested. Fast. Before she finished her lunch and returned to her room and realized her little bottle of medicine was gone. The clock wasn't just ticking anymore. It was a time bomb. I didn't go on a walk. I got in my car, the 2 pieces of evidence heavy in my pockets, and drove. I had to get out of that house. I drove for 10 minutes, my mind a blank, just pure roaring static. Then I pulled into a supermarket parking lot, my hands shaking so hard I could barely put the car in park. I needed an ally. I needed the only other person on earth who knew Evelyn was a monster. I pulled out my phone. My fingers were clumsy on the screen. I found her name. Maya. She answered on the first ring, her voice frantic. "Paul, is everything okay? Is Ryan?" "Maya." I cut her off. My voice was a gravelly whisper. "It's Paul. You were right. You were right about everything. Meet me. Now." "What? What's wrong? Where are you?" "The coffee shop on Elm. The one you two used to like. Get there now. And Maya, turn your phone off. Don't call Ryan. Don't text anyone. Just come." I hung up before she could argue. I got to the coffee shop first. It was half empty. I chose a booth in the darkest corner, my back to the wall. I ordered a black coffee I had no intention of drinking. I just needed to look normal. I set my laptop bag on the seat beside me. Inside it, the Ziploc bag and the pill bottle felt like they were vibrating. 10 minutes later, she burst through the door. Her hair was a mess. She was still in yoga pants. She hadn't even stopped to change. Her eyes scanned the room, found me, and she rushed over, sliding into the booth. "Paul, what is it?" she whispered, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "Is he okay? Did she do something else? Did she find out I came by?" I didn't say a word. I just opened my laptop bag. I took out the computer. I opened it, clicked on the file, and turned the screen to face her. I hit play. I set up a camera. I said, my voice dead. She leaned in, her eyes fixed on the green and black night vision footage. I watched her face. It was a slow-motion explosion of emotion. First, confusion. What is she doing? Then I saw her register the pills, the spoon, the crushing. I saw the second she understood. Her hand flew to her mouth, but it wasn't fast enough to stop the small, strangled sob that escaped. Her other hand gripped my arm, her nails digging into my sleeve. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God. Paul, no, no." She watched the whole thing. She watched Evelyn lift Ryan's head. She watched her force the drugged water down his throat. When the video ended, she just stared at the blank screen, tears streaming silently down her face. She was trembling, a violent full-body shiver. "She's poisoning him," she finally choked out. That witch. She's poisoning him." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a terrible mix of horror and vindication. "I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy. She kept telling me I was unstable. She told him I was obsessive, that I was just trying to drive a wedge between them." I let her cry for a moment. Then I reached into my pocket and placed the Ziploc bag with the glass and the amber bottle on the table between us. Her eyes widened. "You got it. You got the bottle." "She was in the shower," I said. "I have to get this tested. Now. But Maya, I need to know why. I know she's controlling. But this is a crime. This is evil. Is it just because she hates you? Is it just to keep him home? Maya wiped her face, but the tears were replaced by a cold, hard anger. Paul, she said, her voice dropping, it's not just control. It's not just hate. It's the money. It's all of it. The $8 million. I frowned. I know she's helping him manage it, but... No, Maya interrupted, leaning in so close I could feel her breath. She's not helping. She's controlling. Completely. When he first moved back, remember how tired he was, just completely wiped out from the final sale. He told me Evelyn sat him down for a family meeting. Just the two of them. She took a shaky breath. She presented him with a stack of papers. She told him, honey, you're in no state to manage all this. Wall Street is full of sharks. Let me protect you. Let me just handle the bills. Just the boring stuff until you're rested. She swore it was just a temporary measure. A way to protect his assets from... Well, she told him it was to protect him from people like me. My blood was turning to ice. What did he sign, Maya? He was so exhausted, Paul. He told me he just wanted her to stop talking. He trusted her. He's always trusted her no matter what I said, so he signed it. He signed it all. Signed what? I demanded. A durable power of attorney, she said. The words hung in the air, heavy and lethal. I'm a paralegal, Paul. I work in estate law. I know exactly what they are. He showed it to me a week after he signed it like it was no big deal. I nearly lost my mind. What does it mean? It means, she said, her voice breaking, that she has complete unrestricted total control. It's not just for paying bills, it's for everything. His bank accounts, his investment portfolios, his right to sign contracts. He gave her his entire financial life. I begged him to revoke it. He said he would when he felt better. He said I was overreacting, and then he just started getting foggier and foggier. He stopped remembering our conversations. He started forgetting to call me. It hit me. A physical blow knocking the wind out of me. The pills. The fog. So, the poisoning, I whispered. Maya nodded, her face a mask of bitter understanding. He's not recovering, Paul. He's being kept. He's being actively managed. As long as he's sick, as long as he's confused and depressed, she has total control of all $8 million. If he gets better, if he gets his mind back, if he marries me, the first thing he would do is revoke that POA. She can't let that happen. She's not just poisoning him to be a cruel mother. She's poisoning him to keep him legally incompetent. This is a heist, Paul. A multi-million-dollar heist. I looked at the amber bottle on the table. I looked at the video file still open on my laptop. The two plots, the financial and the chemical, snapped together. They weren't two separate issues. They were one single, perfect, diabolical machine. My wife wasn't just a monster. She was an architect. I have to get this tested, I said, my voice like iron. I snapped the laptop shut. Right now. And then, Maya, we need a lawyer. A real lawyer, not hers. I didn't have a private lawyer. I had a family lawyer. A man named Arthur Pritchard, who Evelyn played bridge with. He was the last person on earth I could trust. But I was an engineer. I had planned for my own retirement, my own will on my own terms. Years ago, I had quietly hired an estate planner named Nisha Patel from a firm in the next town over to draft my personal will separate from Evelyn's. She was sharp, no nonsense, and had no connection to my wife. She was the only person I could think of. We can't go to the police, not yet, I told Maya, my mind racing. Evelyn would just play the victim. She'd say Ryan is depressed and she's giving him vitamins. She'd say we are the ones harassing her. We have a video, but we don't have a motive they can prove, and we don't have a lab result. Not yet. So what do we do, Paul? Maya was trembling. We go to my lawyer, not the family lawyer, my lawyer. I made the call from the car on the way to the lab. I told Patel's office it was an emergency, a matter of immediate personal jeopardy and financial fraud. They told me to come at 4 p.m. My next stop was a private diagnostic lab, the kind that does DNA tests and corporate drug screening. I walked in, my heart pounding, and paid $2,000 in cash, a rush fee I pulled from my emergency savings. I handed the sealed Ziploc bag with the glass and the amber bottle to a technician who looked bored. I need a full toxicological screen on both, I said, trying to sound calm. What's in the pills and what are the trace elements in the glass? I need it fast. How fast? For 2,024 hours, he said, not looking up. You'll have an email by tomorrow afternoon. At 4 p.m., Maya and I walked into the sterile, quiet office of Nisha Patel, attorney at law. Mrs. Patel was a woman in her 50s, radiating an intelligence that was almost physically sharp. She wore an impeccable gray suit. She did not smile. She gestured for us to sit. Mr. Harrison, your office called this an emergency. I have exactly 45 minutes before my next client. Please be efficient. Mrs. Patel, I said, my voice hoarse. I apologize. This is difficult.
Ma'am.
I didn't know where to begin, so I just opened my laptop. I think it's better if you just watch. I turned the screen toward her. I pressed play. I watched Mrs. Patel's face. She didn't flinch. She didn't gasp. Her expression did not change. She just watched. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, took in every detail. The unlabeled bottle, the methodical crushing, the way Evelyn forced the water into my son's mouth. When the video ended, she was silent for a full 10 seconds. She just stared at the blank screen. Then she turned her gaze to me. It was cold, not unkind, just cold like a surgeon assessing a wound. Well, she said, her voice quiet, that's not a legal gray area. What you have recorded, Mr. Harrison, is a felony. Several, in fact. Aggravated assault, reckless endangerment. And given the context I'm sure you're about to provide, probably attempted murder. I let out the breath I didn't know I was holding. She believed us. That's my son Ryan, I said. And that's my wife Evelyn. Maya, who had been silent, suddenly spoke, her voice trembling but firm. It's about money, Mrs. Patel. $8 million. Ryan sold his company. He moved home. And Evelyn, she's been doing this thing for 3 months. 3 months? Patel's eyebrows shot up. And he's been in this state the whole time. Yes, Maya said. And she convinced him to sign a durable power of attorney. She told him it was just to pay his bills while he was resting. He gave her control of everything. Mrs. Patel leaned back in her high-backed leather chair. The professional calm was still there, but I saw a new urgency in her eyes. The dots were connecting. Oh, she said. Oh, I see. This isn't domestic. This is financial. The poisoning isn't the goal, Mr. Harrison. It's the mechanism. She is maintaining his legal incapacity. As long as he's in that fog, she is in complete control of his finances. She leaned forward. This, Isa, she said, tapping her pen on her legal pad, just became a 5-alarm fire. A power of attorney is a nuclear weapon. Do you understand? She doesn't just pay bills. She can liquidate his assets. She can sell his stocks. She can wire his entire $8 million fortune to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. And once it's gone, Mr. Harrison, it is gone. We would spend years and millions of dollars trying to claw it back, and we would likely fail. A cold dread heavier than anything I had felt before settled on me. You think she would do that? Mrs. Patel looked at me as if I were a child. I just watched a video of her systematically poisoning her own son. You tell me what you think she's capable of. She looked at her watch. We are on a clock, a ticking clock. We don't know when she plans to make her big move. It could be tomorrow. It could be right now as we're sitting here. We have to assume she is already in the process of moving the money. My mind flashed back. An image. A snatch of conversation. It had meant nothing at the time. It had been this morning. No, yesterday morning. Evelyn on the phone in the kitchen, marking something on the calendar. I shot bolt upright in my chair. Wait. Maya and Patel both stared at me. Yesterday, I said, my heart pounding. Evelyn was on the phone with someone she called her new financial advisor, not the family one, someone new. She sounded excited. She hung up and she wrote something on the kitchen calendar. What did she write, Paul? Maya's voice was tight. A meeting. I said, the words tumbling out. A very important meeting. She said it was the final step. I didn't know what it meant. When? Patel's voice was a knife. When is the meeting? This Friday, I said. This coming Friday. At 10 a.m. She even circled it. Finalized trust, it said. Friday. Today was Thursday. Mrs. Patel stood up. She slammed her notebook shut. The sound was like a gavel. That's it, no, she said, her voice devoid of all emotion. That's our window. That's not a meeting, Mr. Harrison. That's a wire transfer. That's when she's moving the $8 million. That's when she's emptying his accounts and funding her new trust, probably in her name alone. She looked at me, then at Maya. She's not just poisoning him to keep him sick. She's poisoning him to keep him quiet until 10 a.m. this Friday. After that, she doesn't really need him to be sick anymore, does she? The implication hung in the air, heavy and lethal. Once the money was gone, Ryan wasn't just a prisoner. He was a loose end. Mrs. Patel pointed a finger at me. We are no longer just building a case. We are on a rescue mission. We have less than 24 hours. We have to get your son out of that house. We have to get him out tonight. And we have to do it without her having the faintest idea that we're coming. We were still in Mrs. Patel's conference room. The rescue plan. The how was still being debated, but the when was settled. It had to be tonight. But Patel was a lawyer. She wanted every weapon in her arsenal before she declared war. The video is damning, Paul, she said, her hands steepled. But it's not enough. Evelyn's lawyers will call it a deepfake. They'll say it's inadmissible. They'll say you're a bitter husband trying to frame her. But it's real, Maya insisted, her voice raw. I believe you, Patel said, her voice sharp. But a judge needs more. We need the science. We need the lab report. You said you took the samples to the lab. What was the timeline? My heart sank. This was the problem. They said 24 hours. We don't have 24 hours. That's not until tomorrow afternoon. Her meeting is tomorrow morning. Patel's face hardened. She picked up her desk phone. No, that won't do. She punched in a number. Get me Dr. Aris at Bayside Diagnostics. Yes, I'll hold. And she looked at me, her eyes like steel. I sit on the board of that lab's foundation. They owe me a favor. She spoke into the phone. Dr. Aris, this is Nisha Patel. I have a client, Paul Harrison. He dropped off 2 samples this afternoon. Yes, Harrison. I need the full toxicology report on both, and I don't need it in 24 hours. I need it in 1 hour. No, I am not joking. This is not a request, doctor. This is a matter of client safety and imminent criminal fraud. Put a priority 1 alpha rush on it. I don't care what it costs. Send the encrypted email to my account and to Mr. Harrison's as soon as it's done. Thank you. She hung up the phone. The 3 of us sat in the conference room. The silence was heavier than lead. 1 hour. We had to wait 1 hour before we could save Ryan. We tried to plan. We talked about extraction. Maya knew the code to the alarm system. I knew the squeaky floorboard outside my bedroom. But it was all just noise. Our entire plan, our entire case hinged on an email that hadn't been sent yet. My phone resting on the polished mahogany table felt like a bomb. Every minute was a lifetime. My leg bounced under the table. Maya was chewing on her thumbnail, her eyes red and vacant. What if it's inconclusive? Maya whispered. What if it's just a supplement, a sleeping pill? She crushed 2 of them, I said, my voice hollow. It wasn't just a Tylenol PM, you saw the video. And if it is a prescription, Maya pressed, Evelyn will just say Ryan's doctor prescribed it. She'll say she was just administering his medicine. Patel shook her head. A doctor would not prescribe a dose that keeps a man in a chemical fog for 3 months. A doctor would not prescribe unlabeled pills. And a doctor's prescription would not be crushed with a coffee spoon and forced down a sleeping man's throat in the dark. This is a criminal act. We just need the name of the weapon. My phone buzzed. It wasn't a text. It wasn't a call. It was an email notification. The 3 of us lunged our heads, all trying to get over the small screen at once. The subject line was simple: Rush Bayside Diagnostics Lab Report. Harrison. My finger was shaking so hard I could barely tap the screen. It asked for a password. I typed it in. A PDF document opened. It was 2 pages of chemical analysis charts and medical jargon. I couldn't make sense of it. Here, Patel said, taking the phone from my hand. She put on her reading glasses and her eyes scanned the document. She read it, then read it again. Oh, you clever, evil woman, she whispered, more to herself than to us. What? I demanded. What is it? She looked up at me, and for the first time I saw genuine shock on her face. It's a combination, she said. The pills in the bottle and the residue in the glass, they match perfectly. It's not one drug, Paul. It's two. She turned the phone to me. Diazepam and zopiclone. I stared at the words. They meant nothing to me. What is that Valium? Diazepam is Valium, yes, Patel said. A powerful anti-anxiety agent, but it's the combination. Zopiclone is a hypnotic, a powerful, fast-acting sleeping pill. Used together, they don't just add up, they multiply. It's a classic case of synergistic effect. She was already on her phone again, dialing. I need an expert opinion. Now. Patel to Dr. Levin, she snapped. I need you. Urgent. I'm sending you a lab report. I need to know what this combination at this dosage. She read the microgram analysis from the report. Would do to a 180-pound, 39-year-old male if administered daily for, say, 3 months. She put the phone on speaker. We waited. 10 seconds later, a gruff voice came through. Patel, this is Levin. I got your file. Jesus. Are you serious with this dosage? Completely serious, doctor, Patel said. Tell us. Tell you, the doctor's voice was incredulous. I'll tell you, this isn't a dose. This is a weapon. You're not giving this to someone to treat them. You're giving it to them to manage them. This is a chemical restraint. You give this to someone, they're not just sleepy. They're pliable. They're in a waking fog. They'd have severe short-term memory loss, profound confusion, impaired judgment, muscle weakness. They'd be completely dependent on their caregiver for everything. They'd sign whatever you put in front of them. Maya let out a strangled sob and covered her mouth. The power of attorney. And long-term, Patel pressed. 3 months of this, long-term, Dr. Levin scoffed. You're looking at permanent cognitive decline, severe liver damage. We're talking about irreversible, life-altering injury. You keep this up for another 3 months. He might not wake up at all. This isn't medicine, Patel. This is a slow-motion execution. Whoever is doing this, they're not trying to help. They're trying to erase a person. The call ended. The room was silent. The proof was no longer just a grainy video. It was a medical certainty. It was steel. Patel looked at me, her face grim, all business. There it is. We have the why, the $8 million. We have the how, the video, and now we have the what, diazepam and zopiclone. She closed my phone and slid it back across the table. The debate is over, she said, her voice dropping. We are no longer just rescuing Ryan. We are saving his life. She's at her luncheon, I said, my voice a low growl. She won't be back for another hour. Good, Patel said, already grabbing her coat. Maya, you know the alarm codes. Paul, you know the layout. Let's go. The plan just changed. We aren't just moving him. We are extracting him. We drove back to my house in a grim, silent convoy. Patel's black sedan followed my older Lexus. Maya sat in my passenger seat, her leg vibrating with a nervous energy that was almost audible. We parked down the street, waiting. At 7:45 p.m., just as the sun had fully set, Evelyn's Mercedes pulled into the driveway. Her luncheon had turned into an afternoon of shopping. I watched her get out of the car, carrying several expensive-looking bags, a picture of suburban contentment. She's home, I whispered, my stomach turning to acid. She's back in the house with him. It's time, Paul, so, Patel said, her voice coming through my phone's earpiece. She had given both Maya and me comms. She's all yours. We'll be on standby at the end of the block. You have one job, get her out of that house. We'll handle the rest. I took a deep breath. Copy that. I got out of the car. Maya squeezed my hand. Good luck, Paul. I walked up my own driveway, my keys feeling foreign in my hand. This was the last time I would ever enter this house as the man I was. I unlocked the door. Evelyn was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of Chardonnay. She smiled when she saw me, a bright plastic smile. Oh, Paul, you're just in time. How was your walk? I could smell her perfume from the doorway. The same scent she'd worn for 20 years. It now smelled like poison. It was long, Evie, I said, my voice thick. It was long. I did a lot of thinking. Oh, she said, raising a perfectly plucked eyebrow. She took a sip of wine. Don't strain yourself. This was it. I had to play the part. I let my shoulders slump. I rubbed my face, performing exhaustion. You're right. I'm just so worried. About Ryan, about you. She stopped her glass halfway to her lips. About me. You're doing so much. I said the words tasting like gravel. You're handling everything. Ryan's health, the finances, that big meeting tomorrow. You're running yourself ragged. You look stressed, Evie. The suspicion in her eyes softened. I had hit the right note. Her ego. Her martyrdom. Well, she sighed, a small put-upon smile playing on her lips. Someone has to. Ryan is so fragile, and you've been rather checked out, haven't you, dear? I know, I said, looking at the floor. I know, and I want to make it up to you. I did something while I was out. Did you buy me flowers? She asked, a bored tone in her voice. No, I said. Better? I pulled my phone out, my hands shaking slightly. I prayed she'd mistake it for nerves. I called that new spa, the one you and your garden club friends were talking about, the Serenity Peak Resort, the one with the mineral pools. Now I had her full attention. You called them... I booked you the renewal package for tonight. She stared at me. Tonight, Paul, I can't. I have Ryan to look after. And my big meeting is tomorrow. I need to prepare. That's exactly why you need to go, I said, pressing the advantage. The package, it's the overnight one. Massage, facial. They have a private suite for you. You can sleep there, get a full, deep, uninterrupted sleep. You'll wake up completely refreshed for your meeting. You deserve it. She was wavering. I could see the desire in her eyes. The spa was her temple, but she was suspicious. It was too much too fast. Why are you doing this, Paul? Really? I looked her straight in the eye. It was the hardest lie I'd ever told. Because I'm useless. I know I am. I don't know how to help Ryan. I just get in your way. I figured, if I can't help him, I can at least help you. And honestly, I thought, if you were gone, maybe Ryan and I could, I don't know, watch a game or something. Try to connect, like we used to. I watched her face as she processed this. The lie was perfect. It played right into her narrative. Paul, the bumbling, sentimental fool, was trying to have a father-son moment. It was pathetic. It was harmless. It was to her completely non-threatening. She would let me play house for one night while she was pampered, knowing that when she returned tomorrow, her sick son would still be her prisoner. She smiled, a genuine condescending smile. Paul, she said, patting my arm, that's actually very sweet of you. Stupid, but sweet. It's non-refundable, I lied. I already paid for it. They're expecting you in an hour. That sealed it. The thought of $2,000 going to waste was more than she could bear. Well, in that case, she said, her voice suddenly businesslike, I suppose I'd better pack a bag. Make sure Ryan has his water, will you? But don't let him drink too much. I will, I said, my voice a whisper. I'll take care of him. I'm sure you will, she said, already heading up the stairs, a new light energy in her step. Don't mess anything up. I waited in the kitchen, my body vibrating with tension for 30 minutes. She came down with an overnight bag, kissed me on the cheek again, a dry, quick peck, and walked out the door. Don't wait up, she called. I watched through the window until the red taillights of her Mercedes disappeared at the end of the street. I pulled out my phone. My hand was steady now. She's gone, I said into the earpiece. The house is yours. We're moving, Patel's voice replied. 2 minutes. Go to Ryan's room. Be there when we enter. We don't want to alarm him more than necessary. I ran up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. I pushed open Ryan's door. The room was dark, the curtains drawn. The air was thick with the same stale, medicated smell. Ryan was a lump under the covers. Ryan, I said, my voice shaking. Ryan, wake up. I shook his shoulder. He groaned a deep animal sound. He was completely drugged. I heard the front door open downstairs. Not with a key. Maya had used the alarm code. I heard quiet professional footsteps. 2 sets, then 3. We're in, Paul, Maya's voice whispered in my ear. We're coming up. Seconds later, she was at the door, flanked by 2 people in dark blue paramedic uniforms. They weren't paramedics. They were a private medical extraction team hired by Patel. Patel herself was right behind them. her briefcase in hand, looking like a general entering a war zone. "Mr. Harrison," one of the medics, a tall man, said in a low voice. "We need to get him lucid enough to walk. Can you wake him?" "I've been trying," I said, shaking Ryan harder. "Ryan, son, you have to wake up. We're getting you out of here. Leave me." "Lone," Ryan mumbled, pulling the pillow over his head. Maya pushed past me. She sat on the edge of the bed and put her hands on his face. "Ryan, Ryan, baby, it's me. It's Maya. Wake up. Please, we have to go." Ryan's eyes fluttered open. He squinted in the dim light I had just turned on. His eyes were unfocused, the pupils dilated. He stared at Maya for a long moment. The confusion on his face was agonizing. "Maya," he slurred. He tried to sit up, but his arms trembled and he fell back. What are you? You're not supposed to be here. Mom said." "I know what she said, Ryan," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I know. Everything she told you was a lie." "Lie?" Ryan was struggling, trying to clear the fog. "No, Mom's taking care of me. You were mean. You wanted the money," Maya finished, her voice bitter. "She told you I wanted your money. Ryan, look at me." She grabbed his face again, forcing him to focus. She's the one who wants the money. Ryan, she's been hurting you." "What?" He was blinking, trying to push her away. No, stop. Stop talking, my head hurts. Mom gives me medicine for my head." "No, Ryan, that's not medicine." Maya was sobbing now, desperation in her voice. The medics were looking at each other, getting nervous. "We're running out of time," Patel said from the doorway. "If he can't walk, we carry him. But it's better if he walks." "He will," Maya said, her voice fierce. She fumbled for her phone. "You won't believe me. You'll believe her. But you'll believe this." She pulled up the video file, the file I had sent her. "What is?" Ryan mumbled, squinting at the small screen. "It's your bedroom, Ryan," Maya said, her voice like steel. "It's 2:17 a.m. Last night. Just watch. Please, Ryan. Watch." She held the phone 6 inches from his face. We all watched. We watched Ryan watch. He stared, his breathing shallow. He saw the door creep open. He saw his mother's shadow slip into the room. "Mom," he whispered. His voice was a child's, confused. He watched her go to the nightstand. He watched her pull out the unlabeled amber bottle. What is that?" And then he watched. He watched her pull out the spoon. He watched her shake out the 2 pills. He watched her with practiced, efficient movements crush them into a fine white powder. I saw the change in his eyes. It was faint, but it was there. A flicker. The fog was being pierced by something sharper. "No," he whispered. He watched her scrape the powder into the water. He watched her stir it and stir it. That's my water." And then the worst part. He watched his mother lift his own unconscious body. He watched her put the glass to his lips. He watched her pour the poison down his throat. "No." His voice was louder. "No." He ripped the phone from her hand, his own hand shaking violently. He stared at the screen, his eyes wide, blazing with a horrifying, sudden, and absolute clarity. The drugs were still in his system, but the shock, the betrayal, it was a shot of adrenaline so pure it cut right through the fog. She... He looked up, his eyes finding mine. The confusion was gone. It was replaced by a bottomless, soul-shattering terror. "Dad," he choked out. "Dad, what? What?" "She's been poisoning you, son," I said, my voice breaking. "For months. For the money. The power of attorney." Ryan looked at the phone again. He watched the video end. He just stared at the black screen. A sound came out of his throat, a low, guttural moan of pure agony. It was the sound of his world, his entire life, his trust, his love for his mother disintegrating in the span of 30 seconds. "Oh my God," he whispered. He was shaking not from the drugs, but from the shock. "Oh my God. My head. The fog. It's her." "Yes," Maya cried, throwing her arms around him. "Yes, baby. But we're getting you out. We're taking you somewhere safe." "Okay," Ryan whispered, clinging to her. "Okay." The fight was gone. The fog was gone. Only the terrible truth remained. "Let's go," the medic said, his voice firm. He and his partner moved in. They were professionals. They lifted Ryan, who was now weeping silently, his body limp. They got his arms over their shoulders. "Can you walk, son?" the medic asked. I think so," Ryan whispered. They half walked, half carried him out of the room, out of the prison his mother had built for him. I followed, my hand on his back. Patel was last pulling the bedroom door almost shut, just as Evelyn always left it. We moved down the stairs, a silent, grim procession. They got him through the front door and into a black, unmarked van that had pulled into the driveway. It was a mobile medical unit. Maya climbed in the back with him, never letting go of his hand. Where are we going?" Ryan asked, his voice small. "A private clinic," Patel set her hand on the van door. "You'll be safe. They're going to start the detox. They're going to get this poison out of you. We'll be there the whole time." I looked at Ryan. "I'll be there, son. I'm not leaving you." He just nodded, his eyes closing the shock and the drugs finally pulling him back under. But this time he was safe. The van door slid shut. Patel and I watched it back out of the driveway and disappear down the street. We stood there on the driveway for a moment. The house was dark, silent, empty. "It's done," I said. "No, Paul," Patel said, adjusting her suit jacket. "It's not done. This was the easy part." She looked at her watch. It was 9:30 p.m. "We have a long night. We need to get his statement. We need to prepare the restraining order. We need to freeze her assets." She looked back at the dark, empty house. "Because in less than 12 hours she's coming home thinking she's won. And that's when the real hard part begins." Evelyn Harrison returned home at 9:30 a.m. on Friday, a full 30 minutes before her big meeting. She had left the spa early. She couldn't wait. She was humming as she pulled into the driveway. The spa had been divine, but the thought of what she was about to do, the final click of the lock falling into place, was even better. $8 million. A new life. Freedom from Paul, freedom from the burden of a disappointing son, freedom. She walked into the quiet house. "Paul," she called out, her voice bright. "I'm home early." Silence. "Paul?" She frowned. Had he and Ryan gone on their bonding walk? How pathetic. She tossed her overnight bag on the sofa. First business. She'd call her financial guy and let him know she was on her way. But first, she felt a small, malicious urge. She wanted to see her project. She wanted to look at her son, still foggy and helpless, one last time before she went and signed away his life. It was a victory lap. She walked up the stairs, a little spring in her step. She pushed open Ryan's door. "Wakey, wakey, sleepyhead," she cooed. The room was empty. The curtains were drawn just as she'd left them. But the bed was empty. The sheets were thrown back, the pillow on the floor, a flicker of irritation. "Ryan, Paul," she called, her voice sharper. She went back into the hallway. "Paul, this isn't funny." She checked her own bedroom. Empty. She went downstairs, checked the kitchen, the living room. Empty. The house was silent. A cold, different kind of feeling started to prickle her skin. Not fear, annoyance. Had Paul taken him out? He was too sick to go out. She had made sure of that. She went back to Ryan's room. She looked at the nightstand. The empty glass she'd left was gone. A new clean glass of water was there. Paul. He'd been in here. She turned, and she saw it. On the wall outlet. The black USB charger plugged into it. It was new. She didn't own a black USB charger. She'd seen Paul's, it was white. She stared at it. And the annoyance, it crystallized into a sudden, jagged, ice-cold spike of pure panic. "No," she whispered. She ripped the charger from the wall. She looked at it. A tiny lens. A memory card slot. It was a camera. The blood drained from her face. No. She ran to her room, to her jewelry box, to the false bottom where she kept her real pills. The amber bottle was gone. Her knees buckled. Gone. The pills were gone. The camera. Ryan was gone. She scrambled for her phone, her hands shaking so violently she could barely unlock it. She found Paul's name. She hit call. He answered on the fourth ring, his voice sleepy. "Evie, what's wrong? I thought you were at the spa." "Where is he?" She shrieked, her voice a raw, unrecognizable sound. "Where is my son? You bastard, what did you do?" "What, Evelyn? What are you talking about? I'm at a diner. I was getting breakfast." "Liar," she screamed, the word tearing from her throat. "He's gone. Ryan is gone. That That bitch, that gold-digging whore. Maya, she took him. She came here and she took him, didn't she? You helped her. Maya. Paul's voice was suddenly frantic. Oh, he was a good actor. Oh my God, kidnapped Evelyn. Are you serious? She kidnapped him. Call the police. Call 911. I'm on my way home. Oh my God, Ryan. He hung up. Evelyn's mind was racing, trying to catch up with the catastrophe. The money, the meeting, the camera, the pills. Paul knew. She collapsed onto the floor, hyperventilating. But not from grief, from rage. They were trying to steal it from her. After all her work, after all her care. She knew what to do. She had been the victim her whole life. She was good at it. She took a deep, shuddering breath. She dialed 911. Her voice when she spoke was a masterpiece. Please, she sobbed, a perfect, hysterical, terrified mother. Please, you have to help me. My son, Ryan, he's been kidnapped. 15 minutes later, 2 police cars were parked in her driveway. Evelyn, wrapped in a blanket she didn't need, was sitting on her sofa playing the part of a lifetime. 2 officers, a man and a woman, were listening, their faces full of sympathy. It was his ex-fiancée. Evelyn wept, her hands twisting the blanket. Maya, she's unstable. She's obsessed with his money. Ryan he's very sick, officers. He's been suffering from a terrible depression. He's confused. He's not well. And this Maya, the male officer said, writing in his notebook, you said she was obsessive. Oh yes, Evelyn breathed. She wouldn't leave him alone. I had to ask her to leave last week. She threatened me. Evelyn looked up, her eyes wide with carefully crafted fear. She's volatile, and Ryan is so vulnerable. He's my whole life. Oh God, what if she hurts him? What if she... Evelyn broke down in a fresh wave of dry sobs. The female officer put a hand on her shoulder. We're putting out an APB on her vehicle right now, Mrs. Harrison. We're going to find him. Thank you, Evelyn whispered, burying her face in her hands, her mind racing. The meeting, the money, she could still fix this. If the police found Ryan, they'd see he was confused. They'd bring him back. They'd arrest Maya. Paul was the problem, but she'd deal with him. She was in the middle of her most convincing sob when she heard it. A car pulling into the driveway. That's him, she cried, jumping up. That's my husband, Paul. Oh, thank God Paul is here. She ran to the front door, the officers following her. She threw the door open, ready to collapse into the arms of the man she was planning to destroy. But Paul wasn't alone. His old Lexus pulled in, and right behind him, a sleek black sedan. Paul got out of his car, his face a mask of grim, cold anger. He didn't look like a worried husband. A woman got out of the sedan. She was in a sharp gray suit holding a leather briefcase. She looked like a shark. Evelyn froze. Her performance stopped. The blood which had returned to her face with her feigned hysteria drained away again. Paul, she whispered, her voice no longer the victim's. Paul, who is this? What's going on? Mrs. Patel didn't smile. She just walked past Evelyn right into the house as if she owned it. Officers, Patel said, her voice cutting through the morning air. My name is Nisha Patel. I am Mr. Ryan Harrison's attorney, and I'm afraid my client's mother, Mrs. Harrison, has been lying to you. Evelyn's mouth fell open. The performance, the mask of the grieving mother, didn't just crack. It shattered, falling away to reveal the cold, raw panic underneath. Lying, she stammered, her voice a reedy, unfamiliar squeak. I'm not... Paul, who is this woman? Tell her to leave. She's my lawyer. I said, my voice flat. I walked past her, standing beside Patel. And she's right. You've been lying. Officers! Evelyn cried, turning back to the police, her eyes wide and desperate, trying to regain their sympathy. He's in on it. He's helping her. They're trying to steal my son's money. They're all in it together. The male officer looked confused. He was holding his notebook, looking back and forth between us. Ma'am, what's going... He was cut off by the sound of another vehicle. A large, black, unmarked van. It pulled up the driveway right behind Patel's sedan, blocking the police cars in. Evelyn's head whipped around. Who? What is that? The side door of the van slid open. My heart stopped. First, one of the private medics from last night stepped out. Then another. And then Ryan. He was supported by Maya, who had her arm wrapped tightly around his waist. He was wearing gray sweatpants and a hoodie. He was paler than I'd ever seen him. His hands were visibly shaking a fine, uncontrollable tremor from the withdrawal. He looked thin. He looked damaged. But he was standing, and his eyes were open. They weren't the foggy, dull, clouded orbs I had seen for 3 months. They were clear. They were awake. And they were blazing with a cold, terrible, bottomless rage. Evelyn made a sound, a small, choking noise like she'd been punched in the throat. This was the one thing she hadn't planned for, the one thing her mind couldn't compute. Ryan was awake. "Ryan?" she whispered. She took a step toward him, her hand outstretched, the caring mother mask trying to reassemble itself on her face. "Oh, my baby. My God, Ryan, what did they do to you? Look at you. You're... Ryan took one shaky step forward, away from Maya, standing on his own. He looked at the woman who had given birth to him. He looked at her outstretched hand. He looked at her face, her beautiful, lying face. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. His voice was a hoarse, ragged whisper, but it cut through the morning air like a razor. "Why?" Evelyn froze. Her hand stopped hovering in the air. What, baby, I don't..." "Why, Mom?" he asked again, his voice cracking with an agony that ripped my own heart in two. The fog. All this time. The pills. The water." He raised a trembling hand and pointed at her. "It was you. All of it. You. Why?" Evelyn's face collapsed. The denial was so complete, so automatic, it was pathetic. "No, Ryan, baby, no, she's... Maya, she's poisoned your mind. She's lying to you. I was caring for you. Caring for me." Ryan's roar was so sudden, so violent, it made the officers flinch. He took another step, and Maya had to grab his arm to steady him. "You call that caring? You held me down. You... He couldn't say it. He just looked at her, his whole body shaking with the force of his betrayal. The male officer stepped forward, his hand moving toward his hip. "Okay, what is going on here? Someone needs to..." "I'll tell you what's going on, officer," Mrs. Patel said. Her voice was pure ice. She stepped between Evelyn and Ryan, a small legal wall of granite. "Do not speak to my client, Mrs. Harrison," she commanded, "and do not take one more step toward him." Evelyn, desperate, turned back to the police. She's his lawyer. See, they've brainwashed him. He's sick. He doesn't know what he's saying." "He's not sick, Mrs. Harrison," Patel said. "He's in withdrawal from the illegal non-prescribed narcotics you've been dosing him with for 3 months." Patel turned to the female officer. "Officer, my client, Mr. Ryan Harrison, was forcibly removed from this house last night for his own protection. He is currently under medical supervision at a private facility undergoing a forced detoxification from a combination of diazepam and zopiclone." Patel reached into her briefcase. "This," she said, handing the officer a sealed, stapled document, "is a certified expedited lab report from Bayside Diagnostics. It details the exact chemical compounds and their illicit quantities found in my client's system. And this," she said, holding up a small black USB thumb drive, "is a video file. It's from a hidden camera. It shows Mrs. Harrison on multiple nights crushing those same pills and administering them to her unconscious son." The officer's face went from confused to stony. She took the drive. "Lies!" Evelyn shrieked, her voice cracking. "It's a fake! It's a deep fake! They're... Paul, tell them it's not true. You know I love my son. You know I would never... Paul, tell them..." All of them looked at me. The police, Maya, Ryan, Patel, and Evelyn. Her eyes were fixed on mine, pleading, commanding, threatening. The last desperate grasp for the loyalty I had always given her. I took a step forward, standing next to Patel. I looked at the woman I had shared a bed with for 40 years, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had promised to honor. "I can't do that, Evie," I said. My voice was hollow. "I can't." Her face crumpled. What? "I was the one who put the camera in the room, Evelyn," I said. "I was the one who watched the live feed. I watched you. I watched you pull the bottle from your robe. I watched you crush the pills with your little spoon. I watched you lift his head. I watched you pour the poison down his throat." I looked at the police. I saw it all, with my own eyes. The silence that followed was absolute. The only sound was Evelyn's ragged, desperate breathing. The female officer looked at her partner, her eyes hard. "Call the sergeant. Get him down here." "No!" Evelyn screamed, lunging. "But not for us. For the officer holding the drive. Give me that it's a lie. You can't." The male officer grabbed her arm. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. Mrs. Harrison," Patel said, her voice cutting through the panic. "I suggest you be very, very quiet, because I'm about to offer you the only chance you have to stay out of a state prison." Evelyn froze, the officer's hand still on her arm. "You have," Patel said, looking at her watch, "exactly one choice to be made in the next 5 minutes." She pulled a thick stack of documents from her briefcase. "Option 1, Patel said, her voice loud and clear for the officers to hear. "You will sign these papers, all of them. The first is a full voluntary confession detailing your systematic poisoning of Ryan Harrison and your intent to defraud him of his assets. The second is an immediate and irrevocable revocation of the power of attorney. The third is a petition for divorce from your husband, Paul Harrison, in which you waive all rights to community property alimony and any claim on his personal assets or pension citing gross marital misconduct. You will sign all of them right now. You will then take your purse, get in your car, and you will leave this property. You will never contact Paul or Ryan again. In exchange for this, and only in exchange for this, my client, Mr. Ryan Harrison." She glanced at Ryan, who nodded, his face like stone. Out of a final misplaced sense of pity, has agreed not to press criminal charges for attempted murder and aggravated assault. Patel let that hang in the air. You walk away with nothing. No house, no money, no family. But you walk away free. Or, Evelyn whispered, her face ashen. Or option 2, Patel said, a cold finality in her voice. You don't sign, and I will at this very moment provide the officers with the full brief including medical testimony, and we will have them arrest you. Right here, right now. You will be charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, felony fraud, and kidnapping. You will be cuffed in your driveway. You're meeting with your financial advisor. You'll be making that call from a holding cell, and I will personally see to it that you spend the next 20 to 30 years in a maximum security prison. Patel laid the documents on the hood of the police car, clicking a pen and placing it on top. The choice is yours, Evelyn. Your entire life. Right now. Evelyn stared at the papers. Her mind was for the first time visibly, rapidly, desperately working. She was trapped. Every door was locked. But she had one more card, the one she always had. She let out a shaky, contemptuous laugh. This is absurd. This is coercion. You can't do this to me. I'm not signing anything. I want my lawyer. I am calling Arthur Pritchard right now. He will destroy you all. He'll have you disbarred. She was fumbling for her phone. Mrs. Patel smiled. It was the most terrifying expression I had ever seen. It was not a smile of humor. It was a smile of pure surgical and final victory. Arthur Pritchard, Patel said, her voice almost conversational. Your family lawyer, the one who helped you draft that illegal power of attorney. I was hoping you'd mention him. Patel glanced at her watch again. He's a little busy, Evelyn. I made a call last night. Mr. Pritchard is, as we speak, sitting in an emergency meeting with the Ethics Committee of the State Bar Association. He's trying to explain under oath why he, as an officer of the court, knowingly and conspiratorially drafted a POA for a client you to gain control of the assets of a man who was being chemically incapacitated. It's called conspiracy to commit fraud. It's called elder abuse, though in this case it's family abuse. He's not just facing disbarment, Evelyn. He's facing prison time himself. Patel leaned in. He's not taking your call, Evelyn. He's too busy trying to save himself. You have no lawyer. You have no allies. You have no one. That was the last blow. The foundation. The final hidden support beam of her entire world. Her fixer, the man who made her legal problems go away, was gone. ESL. Her knees gave out. Her mouth opened, but this time no sound came out. No scream. No sob. Just a low, guttural animal keening. It was the sound of a soul evaporating. She fell to the asphalt of the driveway I had paid for in front of the house I had built, and she just shattered. She huddled on the ground, this woman who had been a queen, a tyrant, a monster, and she was just a small, pathetic, broken thing. The female officer looked at Patel. Get her up. "Sign the papers, Evelyn," Patel said, her voice flat, "or they will cuff you, right now." Slowly, with a dead, rattling emptiness in her eyes, Evelyn pulled herself up. She stumbled to the car. She picked up the pen, and with a hand that was shaking so hard it could barely write, she began to sign her life away. It's been a year. The big dark house on the hill, the house I had built with my own hands, is gone. I sold it. I sold every piece of furniture, every rug, every memory that was stained with her lies. I live in a condo now. It's smaller, but the windows are wide and it gets the morning sun. It's quiet here, a good, peaceful quiet. Evelyn, she's just a name. She took the deal. She signed every paper. She took her purse, got in her car, and vanished. I heard she's living with her sister in Arizona, a state I've never been to. She has no money. She has no family. She has nothing. Just the clothes she left with. Sometimes I wonder if she even remembers what she did, or if her mind has created a new story where she's the victim. It doesn't matter. She's gone. The doorbell rings. I open it and my son is standing there. He's smiling. He's healthy. The tremors are gone. The fog in his eyes has been gone for a long, long time. He's clear. He's here. Beside him is Maya. She's holding a container. "I made your favorite," she says, kissing my cheek. They're married now. The wedding was small on a beach, just the three of us and Mrs. Patel. We're in my new bright kitchen. Ryan is telling me about the new charity he's running, a foundation he funded with his $8 million to help victims of financial and domestic abuse. He's taking the darkest part of his life and turning it into a light for others. He pauses, looking at me. "We're going to therapy, Dad. Maya and I. It's helping. But I'm still working on things. With us." He puts his hand on my shoulder. His hand is steady. I've been wanting to say, "Thank you, Dad. You didn't just save my money. You saved my life. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. About her. About Maya." I shake my head, my throat tight. "Don't you ever be sorry, Ryan. You were not to blame. You were a victim. The only person who should be sorry is me, for being blind for 40 years. I look at my son, my real son, and I put my hand over his. "You have nothing to apologize for. You're here. That's all that matters." I was 68 years old when I learned that the family I had spent my life building was just a stage, a beautiful, elaborate set designed by its star actress. My wife Evelyn wasn't my partner. She was a performer, a manipulator waiting patiently in the wings for her moment, for the chance to liquidate the family's most precious asset, our own son. That little camera I installed, that tiny piece of plastic and glass. It didn't just record a crime. It recorded the truth of 40 years. 40 years of me, an engineer, a man who solves problems, refusing to see the one critical, catastrophic flaw in his own home. I had mistaken control for love. I had mistaken her silence for peace. I had mistaken my obedience for a happy marriage. I was a fool, a comfortable sleeping fool. Today, at 69, I am learning to build something new. My relationship with Ryan, it's not perfect. It's built on a painful, ugly truth. But it's real. We are healing. And the most expensive, most valuable lesson I've ever learned is this: don't ever be afraid to turn on the light. You may not like what you see in the darkness. You may be terrified by the monsters you find hiding in plain sight. But it is the only way to truly see. This story teaches a harsh but vital lesson. The most dangerous betrayals often hide behind the mask of love and care. It is easy to mistake control for affection and manipulation for concern. Choosing a comfortable, convenient peace over a difficult, unsettling truth only allows the darkness to grow. The greatest warning sign is when someone's love requires another person to be smaller, weaker, or less aware. True protection never involves deception. Trust your intuition. That cold feeling in your stomach is almost always right. Don't be afraid to turn on the light no matter what monsters you might find. Have you ever had to choose between a painful truth and a comfortable lie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.